Ladies and gentlemen, WWE could be bringing back a former WWE superstar from the old days. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we also got to talk about some interesting news surrounding AEW. What happened after Dynamite went off the air? Tony Khan has some guarantees that we got to speak about. And we got to talk about a former AEW and WWE star coming back to wrestling. Let's talk about it right here on The Ango Show. All right, guys, and if you want more videos like this, go ahead and click subscribe. We are on the hunt for 100,000 subscribers. Your support is truly appreciated. Do you guys remember this individual? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. At one point, she was considered to be a very, very big deal, potentially the future of wrestling. Well, now she is coming back. Her name is AQA. You guys might remember her from WWE NXT. You might remember her from AEW. And after 3 years, she is now returning to professional wrestling, which is so huge. She's going to be at a wrestling promotion in Texas called Empire, New Texas Pro. And this is huge, bro. Like, this is such a big deal. You might remember her from Reality of Wrestling, which was Booker T's promotion. She came to WWE under the name of Zeta Ramir. I want to say this was 2021, but basically, she ended up leaving WWE NXT. She went to AEW. She had some medical issues in WWE. She went to AEW. She wrestled only like 6-7 matches in the company, and then she announced that she was retiring, which was crazy. Like, her last match was against Athena, which was for Warrior Wrestling, which at the time was a very, very popular indie wrestling company. So this is really cool news, in my opinion. Like, I think this girl is really, really talented, really, really talented. Anybody who actually remembers her knows that she is a very good wrestler. I don't know if WWE or AEW would bring her back, but I do think if she does not have medical issues and if she is ready to go, I would love for these companies to look at her. I would also love for TNA to potentially look at her. This is just one of those things where in wrestling, some people quit because they just don't want to be a wrestler anymore. She had to kind of leave things behind because of medical reasons, and that's fine. Now she's back. She's doing her thing. She's hitting the indies. Please, 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 if you guys don't know who AQA is, if you don't remember AQA, I say remember because at the time when she signed to AEW, it was actually a very big deal. A very, very big deal. Who knows how things would have been today if she never left, to be honest. That's how good she was. So please, if you're not familiar, go check out her matches, that kind of thing. I love stories like this. This was somebody who appeared to maybe have been done with pro wrestling. Now she's back. We'll see what happens and where she goes, where she ends up, that kind of thing. That brings us to our next topic, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Khan is making some very big guarantees, but I have heard this before from Tony Khan. And I swear, guys, this is actually kind of exciting if he does it. AEW is in Detroit this week, right? They're doing Dynamite not Rampage, Dynamite Collision and ROH. And yesterday we saw Rhino. That was really cool. They did the Masonic Temple. The thing is, AEW kind of had some issues with their ticket sales. Like, they only sold about 2,000 tickets. They did not do a complete sellout. Which is, it's a little unfortunate because Detroit is a hot market. But Tony Khan did come out and say that they are looking at doing a pay-per-view. In fact, he actually came out after Dynamite and said that he guarantees AEW will bring a pay-per-view to Detroit, but they need a larger building. Now, the first time AEW came to Detroit was at Little Caesars Arena, and they sold about 7,000 tickets, which at the time was not bad at all. That was for Blood and Guts. I remember being there in attendance, and Tony Khan talked about having a pay-per-view in Detroit. And it's been 3 years, and we have not seen AEW bring a pay-per-view to Detroit. However, I love the idea of AEW bringing a pay-per-view to Detroit. Detroit fans love professional wrestling. It is a very hot market for professional wrestling. And even the 2,000 fans plus in attendance for AEW Dynamite yesterday was great. They were a great crowd. Detroit is always a great crowd when it comes to professional wrestling. Raw, SmackDown, house shows, pay-per-views, it doesn't matter. Detroit shows up and they show out. The fact that Tony Khan has massive plans to bring a pay-per-view to Detroit is awesome. Now the question becomes, what pay-per-view do you bring? Do you bring Dynasty? Do you bring Forbidden Door? Do you bring Do you bring Double or Nothing? Do you bring in All Out, right? The question about All Out is an interesting one because All Out has been in Chicago all the time. They got to kind of change things up. I would love for them to bring AEW All Out to Detroit. They bringing it to Little Caesars Arena. I do think they would sell over 10,000 tickets. I do think WWE and AEW do relatively well in Detroit. And I think AEW can even do bigger and better by coming to Detroit. And that's largely due to the fact that when you bring a pay per view and we haven't had one, people will buy tickets. And these are really big plans because that means AEW is changing up their way of doing things, right? Double or Nothing is going to be in Arizona. It's not in Vegas. I know Tony Khan loves tradition, but I'm kind of glad to see him breaking tradition just because, there's other markets that are big, bro. There's other cities and other states and other countries even where you can do these pay-per-views. And the fact that Tony Khan is willing to break tradition and bring a pay-per-view and guarantee it for Detroit is relatively huge. So that brings us to our final topic, ladies and gentlemen. WWE is bringing back this individual right here, and his name is Doug Basham. Maybe you remember Doug and Danny Basham, the Basham brothers, back in the Ruthless Aggression era. Well, WWE is bringing him in. He's actually been working for Ohio Valley State. Oh, wow. Ohio Valley State. Wrong. Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, which was obviously WWE's former developmental. OVW, we recently talked about them being bought out by another company. Well, this guy here, Doug Basham, is actually training wrestlers, and he is set to come back to WWE. He might be becoming a trainer at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, which is actually really cool. Now, you might be wondering, why are you even talking about this? This isn't actually that big of a deal. It is, and there's a reason why. There's a lot of people who work backstage in WWE, especially in the Performance Center, that have a pro wrestling background with WWE. They have worked with the WWE before. They have been in the WWE before. And you tend to not know what the hell they're doing in pro wrestling these days. And nobody really seems to be talking about the fact that many of them are actually coming to the WWE Performance Center for work. Now, WWE bringing in Doug Basham, it's not going to be like, oh my God, this is groundbreaking. No, that's not the case at all. But what it is that WWE is willing to bring back other talent that worked with them before, hire them as a trainer, bring them in as a guest trainer, bring them in, this role, that role, whatever it may be, and people evolve. Look at Jeremy Borash. He came from TNA, came to NXT, did some stuff with creative, and now he's literally going to be doing things with WWE for AAA and WWE, right? Like, there's ways to evolve. So as soon as you get your foot in the door, you don't know what they're going to be doing. A lot of people don't seem to know that there are a lot of people who no longer wrestle, but they're still working for WWE in some capacity. And anytime somebody works as a trainer, I think it's cool because, yes, you bring in other people with other ideas and things of that nature. And these people know a little bit of success based on wrestling at a certain period of time. You showcase that to the younger generation, and it helps groom the future. So I love the fact when you see producers, agents, coaches, that kind of thing, when they're being hired, I think it's a really big deal. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Ango Show. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.